My name is Yeldar. I am running Wild Sea this time, and excited to do so. I've been a GM for several years. Live in Oakland, California, United States. Originally from Kazakhstan, and I'm a psychotherapist by day.
I'm the bot of many names. My real name is Laura Verena Stein, and when I'm not currently playing tabletop games, I'm actually a German screenwriter and actor.
I'm Ryan. I'm a freelance TTRPG writer and independent game designer. That's my cat Auri in the Donut of Shame. I've been role-playing since 2010. Sorry, I just let her onto the windowsill. I've been role-playing since 2010, and I've been freelancing and writing my own games since, 2019, I think it was. I wrote my first one-page RPG. Yeah, it's a fulfilling career, if not terribly profitable.
Sorry, because when I was 9, my father came on to the great idea, hey, how about I use my child as a farm bot for World of Warcraft? My mother wasn't a big fan of that, but she knew that I liked the stories, so she got me my first tabletop RPG book with 12 in the hopes that I at least would do something with it in the real world with real people and friends. Yeah, that went out nice. Like that worked out. I never stopped since. By now I'm 28, and yeah.
Excellent. What was it about it that you think really attracted you into the hobby and kept it going like all these years?
Well, the thing is, I've always loved stories. I started reading when I was 4, and I never stopped since. And I believe my first very cringy fan fiction was with 9 or 10. So the idea of telling stories was always something dear to me. And I'm an extrovert. I love telling stories together with others. And funnily enough, tabletop actually led me to theater. And by now I'm a full-blown theater kid, and I will never stop, ever.
Well, I was a fan since I was a kid, starting with like CRPGs, like Neverwinter Nights, Morrowind, Fallout, and so forth. I've been trying to get into tabletop RPGs since then, but back then, it was like about 20-something years ago in Kazakhstan, no one pretty much knew what that meant, and they were like, what are you talking about? Of course, now everyone's playing D&D, which pisses me off. So I kind of I played some forum-based, like play-by-post games on some Russian forums, and went all in just a few years ago when I was already in the United States. Weirdly enough, with my friends from Kazakhstan who wanted to play and no one wanted to GM, and I was like, okay, I'm going to GM. So we did some games online, and since then I'm pretty much like a couple of times a month I run games online for them. We have like a 12, 13 hours difference, which is funny. And I kind of found myself immersed in it. I go to like 2 or 3 cons a year, go to Gen Con every year, running games for like Renegade Game Studios. Have like 5 different campaigns running right now, and so yeah, it's kind of escalated from there.
Maybe slightly atypical. The slightly less TLDR version is that my school library, the librarian had contacts with Games Workshop because I grew up like 20 minutes away from Warhammer World by bus. But she wasn't sure which books were okay for putting out on the library shelves because some of them can be a bit graphic. So I because I was a Warhammer player, I volunteered to read them because why would I not volunteer to read free Black Library fiction? And one of the books that she had was the Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 2nd edition rulebook. And I mentioned this to the guy that I regularly played 40k with, and he was like, "Seems cool. Do you want to try it?" So we tried it solo. It was a mess. I'd rather not think about too much about it, but it was the first time doing anything like that for either of us. And then it kind of just fell by the wayside as we both had to focus on our A levels to graduate. But then when I got to university, there was a wargaming role playing society, and I was like, I like Warhammer. I'd like to keep playing. Why not join the society and just keep going to the Warhammer side of things? Because for anyone who doesn't play Warhammer, it's incredibly expensive. So thanks to my family who funded my early Warhammer problem, and I'd wanted to use the miniatures that they'd kindly bought for me. Turns out that society didn't do all that much wargaming, but they did a whole lot of, like, pretty much once or twice every semester would do an all-day role-playing event where it was just like three-hour slots throughout the day of just you turn up, you play a one-shot, you go if you want to, or you stay around for the next one. So I just hopped on that, and like a lot of role players, was hooked basically from the get-go. I'm not sure Call of Cthulhu was the best first kind of system to play, especially as I wasn't at that point aware of Lovecraft. But yeah, it was a whole lot of fun. It definitely, I still really like horror gaming and things of that nature. I'm not sure if it's formative or not, because I've always liked the horror genre from about the age of 12, but that's just kind of spiraled from there. A bunch of one shots, found a couple of home games to play along to form campaign in, and then eventually started thinking, well, I can, this game isn't doing what I want it to do. How can I make it do what I want it to do? And then when I started running my own games, because it's hard finding people to sit down for the same time every week for a prolonged period of time, I just started experimenting in the 5e space, because 5e was the hotness at that point. It had just been released. And then that, like with most, I guess, freelance writers and independent creators, we went from hacking and homebrewing existing systems to creating our own.
The one that I'm running the most right now is Delta Green, which is a horror game. People like to compare it to like X-Files. If you combine X-Files with True Detective and make it a lot darker and and more tragic, that's Delta Green. I love it. It has such a realistic combat system and realistic sanity system. For me as a psychotherapist, it's just fascinating to kind of explore how like trauma can be damaging to minds and just relationships with people, and just see how it plays out. It's a wonderful game. Another one that I keep coming back over and over is Vampire the Masquerade and other World of Darkness supplies like Werewolf. I always kind of try to ask myself, like, what is this game trying to teach me, right? What is it trying to show us? So, like, Vampire, for example, is about addiction, being addicted to blood in this instance, and how it affects people into their relationships and their lives. And Werewolf is basically, what do you do when you lost and it's futile, and how do you handle aggression that lives in your soul. Yeah, those games allow for very deep explorations, which I love. Last year for Roll for Good, I ran Star Trek Adventures. I am a huge Trekkie, and I think that system is just wonderful in terms of how it explores this themes of Star Trek. Exploration, empathy, compassion, cooperation. Just this optimistic view on the future of humanity and what we can achieve if we really set our minds to it. Also love Dune. I'm a huge Dune fan and ran several Dune campaigns. Yeah, like I have so many RPG books in my apartment, and even more in my Dropbox folder. Like, I think I need an intervention at this point. So.
Okay, so you can absolutely call me basic for that, but I love D&D 5e, mostly because it's a system a lot of people like had some contact with by now, and if you try to explain to people, oh yeah, it's this thing with the dice and the improvisation theater, most of them are like, what are you talking about? But if I'm like, it's the thing from Stranger Things at the beginning, oh yeah, I've heard about it, it's just great to get people into playing. I personally also love Call of Cthulhu, because it's just a whole different world, and I really love games where the players are not supposed to fight everything, but to actually survive or not survive. And number 3 is hard because I do love Wickedness, which is an indie system that you play with tarot and without a DM. But I also love Shadowrun because it has this rich world of science fiction and cyberpunk and fantasy intertwined, so I believe those two would share place 3.
I've mentioned the Chronicles of Darkness, that huge impact on just me as a role player and storyteller, and by extension Curseborn, which is Onyx Path Publishing's in-house dark fantasy game. So, like, full disclosure, I am a freelance writer for Onyx Path Publishing, but I'm purely freelance. I have no inside knowledge of their workings. But if you're a Chronicles of Darkness fan, Paradox seem more to be focusing on World of Darkness 5th edition. Sorry about the cat. So Curseborn is like the spiritual successor to Chronicles of Darkness and World of Darkness. So that one. Onyx Path Scion as well, huge influence on me in terms of storytelling. And then, purely because it's what I'm playing at the minute with my home group, a game called Pigsmoke. It's a Powered by the Apocalypse game by I think Chris Longhurst, and the general shtick of it is, what if you were the teachers of a magical university in a sitcom?
Self-drawing back on.
Well, just the books and TV shows that I like, and then, like you said, my profession for me, like both therapy and RPGs, it's just a way to witness and facilitate other people's stories, and I find that magical. One of the big influences for me was watching the actual play Get in the Trunk. Delta Green actual play by Glass Cannon Network, Joe O'Brien, and I stole a lot of tricks from him, and I think that influenced me as a GM like profoundly.
I'm a Dimension 20 girl. Like, I'm gonna be honest. Like, Bria Iyengar, Brenly Mulligan, I watch each and every episode, and those people are geniuses. I also like Critical Role, but their pacing isn't for me. Like, I really like the polished, high-paced feeling of Dimension 20. But for other media, I was a big Aragon. Oh God, what's it? In Germany? It's called Aragon. It's like this book about the boy who becomes a dragon rider.
I think it's the same over here. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It's one of my favorite books. Anything from Anne Bishop, even though her books are absolutely dark and gruesome, but she's got a way of world building that always intrigued me, and the way of like different factions getting different kinds of informations, which is absolutely cool when you're the reader and you know all the information, but it makes so much sense how the people acting if you know what they are knowing. And I believe another big one, and that is a very German specific one, might be Tintenherz. I believe it's Inkheart from Cornelia Funke, which is a beautiful story about the power of storytelling and of reading out loud, and how stories can change the world even if they're not your own, if you just make them your own. And I believe that book was one of the big inspirations for me to start telling my own stories.
If you're watching this and you are a UK-based tabletop creative, voice crack, I'm also the chairperson for the UK Tabletop Industry Network, which is a CIC built around peer support and advice for tabletop creators, mostly based in the UK. We have some people in Ireland as well at the minute. And we have a newsletter at uktin.substack.com. And if you swing by there's links to our Discord server. And we put out a monthly newsletter about like community releases and stuff. But we also provide table space for people who can't exhibit at cons. So like we'll be at UKG this year with loads of, I think, 35, items from our community members. Just from small independents like myself who can't afford a table at a convention or who can't attend a convention for whatever reason. And just we sell for them, as well as we have loads of active members who provide advice all the time for how to get into the industry, crowdfunding advice, that GPSR, which is the new safety regulations in the EU and all of that stuff. If you really want to make a go at being a tabletop creative, UK Tin is one of the best places that you can go, in my totally biased opinion.